Natsuo is a risless loser who wants to clap his teacher, but his life spirals for the worst when he pops his cherry to a random girl, turning him into a giga chad that all girls want to clap. A day before, Natsuo was just sleazing around with his buddies when his teacher, Hina, pops up and tells him to stop gossiping about Boku no Pico at school. Seeing her pretty face makes Natsuo fold, but he knows his chances are slim as there are rumors that Hina has a boyfriend, and when his friend invites him to a mixer, he agrees. While the other girls at the mixer act all cute, among them is Rue, who acts coldly, but her appearance puts Natsuo in a trance at first sight. Then they get to talking where both agree that hookup culture stinks as they were both once dorks before their glow up. Looking at Rue reminds Natsuo of Hina, but then she asks Natsuo to sneak out with her and do her a favor. They go to her place and she takes Natsuo to her room, telling him to lay her the pipe. She tells him she wants to experience it after all her friends mocked her for being a virgin. After they go back and forth on what is morally right, Natsuo agrees to do it despite his crush on Hina. After the 10 seconds of greatness he experienced, Natsuo and Rue don't say a word, and after they leave, Rue tells Natsuo to be strangers before they go their separate ways. Natsuo goes to his friend's house and hugs him after getting traumatized by what a girl's plot hole feels like. His friend, Fumiya, can't believe that Natsuo popped his cherry with some random chick, knowing he actually has a crush on his teacher. Reality starts kicking in, and Natsuo starts regretting popping his cherry this way. But Fumiya reminds him that his crush on Hina will never bear fruit. The next day, Natsuo spends his time alone writing on the roof when Hina appears and starts teasing him about the first time they met. Knowing that Hina likes coming there to sulk, Natsuo tries to comfort her, but gets treated like a brat instead as Hina doesn't see him as a man. She teases him, telling him to grow up first, and it only makes Natsuo fall even harder. The next day, he goes back to the rooftop for some alone time, but there he sees Hina, alone and in tears. Again he tries to comfort her, lending her his shoulder to cry on, and Hina treats him like a joke, deeming him not mature enough. However, Natsuo blows up, telling her to start seeing him as a man. At home he falls asleep, dreaming about Rue and Hina, but then his father wakes him up and tells him that he has an announcement that he's getting married again and that his new wife and her daughters are coming. The anime gods deliver the plot of the century after shocking Natsuo with his new sisters being both Hina and Rue. Natsuo can't believe his eyes to see this much plot progression at once and faints. After they get to awkwardly know each other, Rue confronts Natsuo and tells him that she wants for their parents to be happy after the sadness they endured during their previous marriage, and they should be actual siblings. Later, Natsuo shows his support for his father to remarry after the death of his wife, and seeing his son's support, the father ecstatically tells him that they're moving to a new house with the girls. At the new house, while Natsuo is nervous and devastated about losing the chance to clap Hina, she on the other hand is excited to have a new non-Alabama brother at Natsuo. Then Rui appears, pulls his ear, and tells him to forget about what happened between them and start acting like a normal sibling. However, Natsuo struggles to forget about what happened, and it gets worse when Hina walks out with all her plots out after a bath. Realizing what she just did, Hina starts panicking and explains that she did it out of habit, and when she does put on clothes, it still leaves a lot to Natsuo's imagination. After drinking, Hina sleeps next to Natsuo defenseless, and while he's struggling to keep the beast asleep, Natsuo tries to wake her up. Seeing how cute she is triggers Natsuo's desire, and he goes to kiss Hina in her sleep. But just as he gets close, Rue walks in, shocking and stopping Natsuo. However, acting like nothing happened, Rue just pushes Hina down and takes her to her room. The next day, Natsuo arrives late to school and finds out that Rue has moved to the same school, attracting Natsuo's buddies. Rue almost reveals that they live together, but Natsuo stops her. Following this, they discuss how to explain to their friends about their new wet and sticky sibling relationship, and Natsuo suggests they just keep quiet about it to avoid people starting strange rumors, and without caring, Rue agrees to his idea. Later, Hina notices Natsuo's bed hair, but instead of teasing him, she compliments him. Natsuo asks Hina if she remembers what he did to her the night before, but she makes Natsuo panic by thinking they kissed as she has kissed her friend while drunk before. But Natsuo assures her that she didn't do it to him. During lunch break, Natsuo visits Rue, who's eating alone, and realizes that she has no one to eat lunch with. Rue explains that when girls try to get close to her, she scares them away by saying that 7 Deadly Sins is the best anime. Seeing his bed hair, Rue starts fixing it for him, and Natsuo realizes that Rue is sweet but is also awkward. Rue confesses that, unlike Hina, who makes friends easily, she struggles, and after hearing this, Natsuo suggests that he'll help her train to socialize. He starts acting like James Charles, asking Rue questions about herself, but she keeps responding coldly, refusing to act all cute and fluffy, which starts an argument with Natsuo. Everyone starts paying attention to them arguing, and they all suddenly laugh at Rue, saying that Rue is actually sociable, and ask her to be friends with them. Back at home, Natsuo goes to take a bath and walks in on Rue in the bathroom, but instead of panicking as other girls would, Rue thanks him for previously and invites him in to bathe with her. Natsuo starts arguing that they're siblings, but Rue walks out and shows Natsuo that this sibling is from Alabama. She wants to ask him about the other night, and hearing this, Natsuo walks in the bathroom. Rue takes a guess and assumes that Natsuo tried to kiss Hina to cheer her up after what happened with her boyfriend. But Natsuo knows nothing about it, and after hearing this, Rue tells him to forget what she said. The next morning at breakfast, the parents announce that they are going to make their marriage official at an office, leaving Natsuo and the sister alone at home while Hina cooks. Natsuo starts wondering if Hina can cook, and when he does see her cooking, in his head, he wants to have her babies. Natsuo starts praising her for cooking, but Hina points out that Rui is actually the one who does most of the cooking. Then Hina starts drinking, and while Rui is in her room, Natsuo asks Hina about her boyfriend, and Hina instantly clocks that Rue told him something. She quickly brushes off his worries and asks him about his problems. Natsuo reveals that his only problem is his curly hair, and hearing this, Hina teases him, saying that she's jealous. She shows him her hair and tickles his face with it, making him fold. Suddenly, Hina slips and Natsuo catches her, almost kissing. But a phone call from a man named Shu stops them, and Hina leaves Natsuo to meet this mystery man in front of the house. A moment later, Hina screams and runs back into the house upset, but refuses to tell Natsuo what happened. The doorbell starts ringing and Hina asks Natsuo to ignore it. However, Rue walks in, opens it, and it turns out to be the parents after they got drunk. That night, Natsuo can't sleep while haunted by Hina's problems. The next day, Natsuo goes to a cafe to vent to his buddy Fumiya, who can already guess what Natsuo is gonna vent about. Natsuo talks about Hina's unhappy boyfriend issue and wanting to get involved, and the cafe's owner, Masaki, advises him to just clap Hina to make her feel better. But they just ignore this sussy old man and his advice. After hearing Natsuo's story, Fumiya tells him that Natsuo is jealous of Hina's boyfriend and reveals that he feels the same. Fumiya talks about the women who visit the cafe and have issues with their man, and they start role-playing with each other where Natsuo is the cheating husband with 20 baby mamas and Fumiya is the wife who likes to watch. On their way home, Natsuo and Fumiya walk on Hina after getting dropped off by a man in a car, and seeing this makes Natsuo feel jealous and thinks that she's having an affair. At home, Natsuo goes to Hina's room and confronts her straight, asking if she's having an affair. Hina tries to cover up, but Natsuo calls her out for cheating, and with all the pressure he puts in, Hina folds and confesses that she's seen a married man. It disappoints him to see Hina has a 304, and while she tries to kick him out of her room, Natsuo kisses Hina, and she enjoys it for a moment before slapping him in the face to stop him. Suddenly, she goes for another long kiss, playing tongue twister, and pushes him to the bed for some plot development. They pause for a second, and Hina doesn't do anything, telling Natsuo that she can feel him afraid, and she deems him still immature. After he leaves, Hina questions what she just did, while Natsuo starts crying in his room. The next morning, the family starts panicking after they find a letter from Natsuo, who ran away from home. While the parents think that Natsuo has issues with their marriage, Hina is silent as she knows the truth. Meanwhile, Natsuo is at Fumiya's place after running away and skipping school. Fumiya apologizes, thinking it's his fault, but Natsuo assures him that it's his own fault for doing something he shouldn't have done. Hearing this, Fumiya tells Natsuo that it's now fair game and he will go after Hina to make her his baby mama. But Natsuo rejects his idea and starts throwing hands, but Fumiya ends up making Natsuo his dog. Like a Chad, Fumiya manages to cheer him up, so he tells Natsuo to stop going after girls and focus on his writing to secure the bag. Days later, while he's struggling to write, Natsuo sees Rue from the window, looking for something. They lock eyes and Rue tells him she's looking for him and asks to stay with him there. Then they start arguing that Rue can't stay, but Fumiya's mom appears and asks if Rue is his little sister. Rue starts arguing that she's the older sister, but after discovering she's younger, she pouts her cheeks like a squirrel. Then Fumiya's mom invites her in, and later Fumiya starts tweaking after seeing Natsuo, a homeless guy, bring Rue, a homeless girl, into his home. After explaining what happened, Rue confesses that she's also running away from home to boycott her sister's action, not liking that Hina is dating a married man. Once, Rue tried to talk Hina out of it, but she dismissed Rue and told her that she would never understand how she felt. While he does care, Fumiya tells the siblings that they can't stay with him forever and they need to do something. Natsuo tells them that he will make Hina dump her affair partner, and after hearing his conviction, they start making a plan. Later, the two of them go home, meeting their worried parents, but are shocked to see divorce papers on the table, and they explain their marriage has nothing to do with them running away. Natsuo's father starts crying, begging Natsuo to open up to him if he has problems, but Natsuo can't bring himself to do it. In tears, Hina starts apologizing, but except for Natsuo, nobody knows why she's crying. The next morning, Hina greets Natsuo, but he responds to her coldly and sits next to Rue to start their plan. While Hina is teaching gym class, Natsuo and Rue stalk her, and after what Fumiya suggested, they plan to find out who the guy Hina is seeing. After Hina leaves, the two of them follow her to a bar, and there Hina drinks alone for hours, so the two decide to follow Hina again another day. The next night, they follow her again, but it turns out Hina goes to a comedy show alone to watch a Peppa Pig parody. After a few days, they don't catch Hina with any guys, but on this day Natsuo is convinced it will be different. But instead of a dude, a girl appears, and it turns out Hina is just lending her student her ears to vent. Seeing this happen, Fumiya suggests their last resort. Back at home, Hina is taking a shower when Rue sneaks in and snatches Hina's phone for their final attempt. They find the guy's contact, Shu, and call him, and Rue pretends to be Hina. But Rue gets nervous, starts stuttering, and hangs up. Then Shu calls back, and this time, Rue fails again to say anything, failing their last attempt. At the cafe, they're both down after the failure and Masaki laughs at their failure. But he praises them for their youthful spirit. Suddenly, Hina walks in with her man, Shu, shocking Natsuo and Rue. Without missing a beat, Natsuo tells Shu to break up with Hina and starts getting aggressive, wanting to shove his fist where the sun doesn't shine. But Masaki stops him, banning him from using violence at his cafe. Then they all sit together and Shu starts explaining that he has dated Hina for 2 years, which is before Natsuo met her. Rue asks who between the couple initiated the relationship, and after hearing this, Shu takes the blame and confesses that he actually wants to meet Hina's family. Suddenly, Natsuo starts cooking this fool, calling Shu out for thinking their affair is something special while leaving his poor wife behind. Shu agrees with his sentiment but still prefers Hina, saying that his love is real, and asks Natsuo for his blessing once gets a divorce from his wife. Natsuo is still not convinced, claiming that Shu kept making Hina cry, and after hearing this, Shu pulls out his rees and apologizes to Hina for making her wait for him to divorce his wife. Out of anger and jealousy, Natsuo almost explodes, but Rui throws water at Shu, and with anger in her eyes, Rui runs away. Natsuo goes to chase her, and thanks Rui for what she's done, even inviting her to kick Shu's teeth in. But Rui rejects his offer. Suddenly, Rui starts crying out of frustration, rejecting her sister's new relationship, and after seeing her tears, Natsuo gives Rui a hug to calm her down. Meanwhile, Shu is trying to help Hina cope with what's happening but tells her that he knows that Natsuo loves her romantically after what he just saw. Hina assures Shu that she holds no feelings for Natsuo, but Shu doesn't believe it. After everything that happened, Hina asks Shu for them to keep their distance and they hug. The next morning, Natsuo wakes up and runs into Rue, who has been crying the whole night. At breakfast, the dad reminds them that his late wife's visit is today, and Natsuo feels guilty for forgetting his own mother. Hina appears acting like everything is normal, and asks Rue to go shopping with her, but she ignores Hina and walks away. Hina tries asking Natsuo, but he rejects her too, needing to do something important. He goes to the cemetery, and there he visits his late mother. He remembers the past when his mother was bedridden in the hospital, but still managed to stay bright, presenting Natsuo with gifts as she couldn't be there all the time for him, worried she couldn't help wipe his tears. Then, the mother died, and while sad, Natsuo tried his best not to cry, not wanting his late mother to worry. Now it's been 10 years, and Natsuo still wonders what would life be like if she were still alive. Suddenly, Hina and Rue show up for him with flowers and his mother's favorite food in hand, and they want to introduce themselves to his mother. Hina tells Natsuo that she broke up with Shu, and explains that it's because Shu is being indecisive with the divorce, and that she loves her family too much. Both Rue and Natsuo are happy, and the three of them pray at the late mother's grave, asking for her blessing. The next morning during breakfast, Rue is scolding Hina for being a picky eater, and seeing this, Natsuo smiles and later tells Rue how happy he is that they are finally starting to become a real family. Then Rui asks him why he ran away from home, but Natsuo quickly escapes, refusing to answer. At school, Rue is minding her own business when a girl talks to her and introduces herself as Momo. She reveals that she wanted to talk to Rue for a long time and she gives Rue a doll. At lunch, her friends invite Rue to lunch, but when they see Momo's doll, they throw it away and tell Rue that she should avoid Momo as she is known to be from the streets and likes to flirt with guys, which disgusts other girls. However, Rue picks up the doll back and tells her friends that she can judge herself. Later, Rue meets Momo again, and this time Momo gives her another doll that looks like her, which creeps Rue out. Then Momo gobbles an ice cream, and after seeing how dirty she enjoys ice cream, Rue asks Momo if she's experienced with men. Momo knows that Rue has heard the rumors and reveals that she dated 30 dudes in the past, which shocks Rue. Momo explains that all her exes cheated on her, with some even stealing her money and locking her up. With all the rumors around her, Momo struggles to make friends and she asks Rue to be her friend, which Rue accepts. Then, they do everything together at school, and when Natsuo runs into them at the bookstore, it surprises him that Rue now has a friend. They introduce each other, and it doesn't take long for Momo to grow interest in Natsuo, where she starts asking him questions about his passion for writing. On their way home, a bike almost runs into them, but Natsuo pulls Momo to his chest, which makes her fold. Then, after they split up, Momo asks Rue for her permission to date him just in case Rue also has feelings for him. But after Rue says she holds no feelings for Natsuo, Momo asks for her blessing. The next day, Rue has a fever and Natsuo thinks about walking her home. But Momo appears and hands him a small piece of paper before leaving and flashing in her peaches. On the paper is a dating invitation for Natsuo, but instead of going, Natsuo visits Rue at home, telling her that she's more important. Feeling sweaty due to the fever, Rue takes off her clothes and begs Natsuo to help wipe her back from the sweat. Then, while still imagining their plotful night together, Natsuo wipes Rue and later puts her to bed. After a text from Hina asking him to take care of Rue, Natsuo stays by Rue's side, showing that he cares. Rue tells Natsuo directly that Momo has a crush on him and explains that the idea of Momo dating him makes Rue feel uneasy. Then her fever becomes worse and her mother tells Natsuo that her medicine is available, but it needs to be pushed through her other hole. Knowing that Rue can't do it herself, Natsuo gets behind her and does it. After an hour, Rue's fever goes down, and the family thanks Natsuo for his help, and even his dad starts crying to see them becoming actual siblings. The next day, Momo confronts Natsuo, and she's not upset about getting stood up, but Natsuo's friend, Yuya, sees them and tells Natsuo that Momo is known to be from the streets. Yuya reveals that he did it once with Momo, and warns Natsuo that she is crazy. At lunch, Momo cooked for him so they could eat together. Momo tells Natsuo she does this only to people she likes, refusing to leave anything to chance by giving her best, and after hearing this, Natsuo thinks she's incredible. She can see that something is bothering him, and after she pushes for an answer, Natsuo confesses that he still hasn't moved on from his first love. Suddenly, Momo kisses his cheek and invites him over to her house. Following this, they play tongue twister, and as the aggressor, Momo pushes him down to show him her plot. In his head, Natsuo wants to do it with Momo to forget about Hina, but then he gets a text from Rue asking him what he wants for dinner. Momo tells Natsuo that she's jealous of him for having a full family that eats dinner together while she doesn't have that. They continue where they left off, and while Natsuo is undressing her, he sees cuts on her wrist. Momo assures him that it's fine for him to continue with the plot progression, but Natsuo stops, and instead of preaching, he cooks her food so they can eat together. She praises him as Gordon Ramsay Jr., and Natsuo tells Momo she can call him whenever she's lonely. After hearing this, Momo starts crying and confesses that everyone she dated avoided her after seeing the scars, and that Natsuo is the first to treat her nicely even after seeing her scars. Although she wants to date him, Natsuo rejects her interest and tells her it's best to not date someone just to depend on them. Days later, while reading a book on the rooftop, Natsuo is by himself when suddenly, a hot teacher, Korea, instants transmission there while smoking a cigarette. He notices Natsuo's book and leaves him alone after happily knowing that there are still people who can read. They start talking about their favorite authors, but just like Oscar Wilde, Korea gets close to Natsuo and rizzes him for having pretty eyes before leaving. Later, Rui asks Natsuo to help her look around for clubs she can join. Rui tells him that Momo is happy he cooked for her, but Rui is not, as Natsuo never cooked for her. Natsuo realizes that while he was playing hide the pickle with Momo, Rui was all alone at home. Later, after finding out that Natsuo is gonna look at girl clubs with Rui, The boys tag along with him, confusing Rue on why Natsuo brought some trash with him. They look at sports clubs where clothes are tight and cheeks are plump, and after the sightseeing finishes, the boys just lead Natsuo along with Rue to find clubs for her. They enter a room belonging to the reading club, and there they find a book they both want to read, and because no one is there, they take it. The next day, Natsuo returns to the room to return the book, but he hears a person's voice behind the shelf. When he investigates, he sees Korea, the teacher, kissing a student, and when he tries to sneak out, they catch Natsuo. The student Miu explains that she was just taking something from Korea's face and Natsuo believes her. Korea approaches Natsuo, and after seeing the book in his hand, he tells Miu that Natsuo is joining the reading club. Natsuo tries to reject, but Korea forces him to join by threatening to report him for taking the book without permission. Without a choice, Natsuo agrees to join, which makes Miu happy, and seeing this happening, Korea suggests they go hunting for more members. After school, Natsuo and Miu go to share flyers, and Miu confesses to Natsuo that her club is dying with her as the only member, and Natsuo joining the club makes her happy. Then they start handing flyers and Rue takes one from Natsuo, wondering why this idiot is in the reading club. Korea shows up and tells Natsuo that he is now officially a member of the reading club. After he runs out of flyers, Natsuo goes and checks on Miu, but when he gets there, Miu's flyers haven't decreased and every student ignores her as she's too quiet. She apologizes for being too reserved, but Natsuo tells her it's fine and assures her that she shouldn't feel bad. The next day, Natsuo finds a love letter from Korea telling him to come to the club. There, Korea starts asking his members about their experience with romance novels. Knowing that both Natsuo and Miu are writing love novels despite their terrible love life, Korea suggests they kiss. While Natsuo starts panicking, Miu accepts the suggestion and closes her eyes, waiting for a kiss. Natsuo starts questioning the absurdity of the situation, but after Korea's encouragement, he goes for the kiss, but when he sees Miu's tears, Natsuo stops. He claims he can't do it, and hands Miu a tissue for her tears, but after seeing his strong character, Korea asks to read his writing. At home, while working on club stuff, Natsuo asks Hina about Korea as a teacher, and Hina tells him that while Korea is a weirdo, he's also a flawless teacher. To cheer him up, Hina feeds him some chocolate and wishes him good luck. Suddenly, Rue tells them that she wants to join the reading club, and while she has never written anything before, Natsuo doesn't oppose her joining. At the club, Natsuo tells Miu that Rue is joining and she gets jolly after hearing it and hands Natsuo a tissue and candy to thank him for the other day. With the strict library rules, they start communicating like Komu-san, using notes to talk about Korea, and while Natsuo thinks he's a creep, Miu says that Korea is a great mentor. Later, after hearing about Rue joining the reading club, Momo declares she wants to join too despite only reading books written by Dr. Seuss. Then, they all go to the club and Miu is excited to see new members, but is in shock to see Momo, who's a genius, join her club. Miu thanks Natsuo for lending her a book, and seeing them close like this makes Rue jealous. Later, Rue goes to the cafe and she vents to Misaki about her sudden increase in anxiety and caring how people see her. Hearing this, Misaki assures her that everyone, and even him, goes through that, and he tells the story of how he was once a Yakuza. In his story, he is in the middle of a deal when he sees a handsome rival member, and there, Misaki folds and wants to gobble the man's pickle. Misaki tells Rue that what she's feeling is a strong emotion, affecting how she thinks and feels, and that she needs to follow where that emotion leads. At home, Natsuo is alone with Hina, and she thanks him for not snitching on her about Shu to the parents, but suddenly, Hina invites him to hang out with her. A week later, they spend time together at a cafe. They start eating ice cream, and a waiter praises them for being a cute couple, which makes Natsuo blush. Then they walk around looking at different sceneries like what Alabama siblings would do. At the beach while they're joking, Hina apologizes for not treating Natsuo like an adult all this time and says that when they almost do the woohoo, she did it to hurt him and make him back off. Then Natsuo asks her why she had an affair even though her own father cheated on her mother. Hina explains that Shu was her first love but was also her teacher. She tells the story during her school days, and there was a classmate of hers, Mommy, that has a crush on a boy named Shibata. However, when Shibata is friendly with Hina, Mona gets jealous and starts talking smack about Hina, saying that she's from the streets, but just next door, Hina hears everything. Then at lunch, Hina is alone, crying when Shu, her teacher, shows up and cheers her up with his dolls. From then on, Hina starts visiting him, slowly falling in love. But then, even after knowing he's married, Hina still chooses to meet him. At first, Hina thought cheaters were the worst, but now she's no different. After hearing her story, instead of feeling disgusted, Natsuo can relate. He shows Hina his finished novel and tells her that he is in love with her. His words leave Hina frozen and shocked, but instead of rejecting him, Hina pulls Natsuo to the ocean, slowly drowning themselves, and when Natsuo panics, Hina gives him a reality check that for them to date is like dying together and throwing everything and everyone they know. Hina asks for them to stay as siblings, but before they leave the ocean, Natsuo hugs her to let go of his love forever. Later that night, Hina reads Natsuo's novel and starts crying after knowing that the heroine in the novel is her, and the next morning, she leaves a note saying thank you to Natsuo for the beautiful novel. The next few days, even though he promised to let go, Hina is still in his thoughts. Then Rue comes into his room at night, and after sitting down on his bed, she holds his hand and tells him how they didn't kiss when he clapped her. Rue asks Natsuo to kiss her, and when he tries to reject it, she brings in Hina into the conversation and how he tried kissing her even as siblings. Natsuo tries to push Rue away, but after what happened with Hina, he doesn't care anymore and says that they can do it. Then they kiss as normal siblings would do, and instead of feeling disgusted, Rue likes it and asks to do it more with him in the future after feeling how tender his kisses are. The next day, Natsuo goes to his reading club, and there he spends his time talking with Miu and finds out that Mui has written various stories in the school's publication. Then Rue and Momo walk in, see those two, and start getting jealous of Miu, who gets to have Natsuo all by herself. While Natsuo reminds his fellow members that they need to write more for the club's publication, Korea walks in and tells his members that they should focus more on the final exam first. After hearing what Korea said, Rue and Natsuo beg Hina like little puppies to teach them, and Hina accepts. Later, Hina criticizes Natsuo's grammar and Rue takes a dig at him, saying he was too busy imagining clapping Miu. Hearing about that spilled tea excites Hina, but when Natsuo has a flashback and makes a face, Rue thinks he really did clap Miu in the club room. Hina tries to gossip more about Miu, but Natsuo shuts it down quickly. In his room, Natsuo is annoyed that Rue snitched on him in front of Hina, so he goes to confront Hina. But when he gets to her room, through her door Natsuo sees her in her room, making herself squeal happy noises. Hina is lying in her bed alone, whisking her own batter and playing DJ to her own CDs while imagining Shu, and Natsuo, who's watching, accidentally drops his book after getting shocked and almost gets himself caught, but just manages to escape. The next morning, Hina scolds him for waking up late and gestures goodbye as she goes to work, but seeing her hand makes Natsuo blush after knowing where that hand has been. A week later, the exam finishes, and Korea congratulates them for getting good grades as they enter the summer break. Days later, Natsuo spends his summer break writing and not with Hina, and while she's still as cheerful as ever, Natsuo feels that something changed with her. Stuck with his writing, he plans to get books from school, but before he leaves, Rue confronts him and asks if he stole her panties, which he denies. Feeling a little lonely, Natsuo tries to invite Rue to go with him, even promising to buy her some Victoria's Secret, but she declines his offer and prompts him to go alone. At school, out of nowhere, Natsuo gets yeeted by a bike, and he's confused about what kind of an idiot rides a bike inside the school. It turns out to be a foreign student named Alex who gets excited to meet a new friend and acts like he did nothing wrong. Then they go to the cafe and Misaki starts glazing Alex's cute face. But then, Misaki warns Natsuo that an underwear thief has been lurking around town, which makes Alex start talking about his non-existent 2D girlfriends who wear no underwear. On their way back, they're talking about girls and their various peach colors when they spot the underwear thief in action. They chase him down, and when they do get him, Alex goes full Street Fighter on him. After they catch the thief, they end up at the police station, and Rui appears, worrying about Natsuo after what happened. Without missing a beat, Alex begs Natsuo to introduce him to Rue so he can start clapping. Later, Natsuo walks home with Rue, and after what Alex asks of him, Natsuo starts questioning his feelings for Rue. At home, Natsuo tries to invite Rue to hang out with him and Alex, and explains that Alex has a crush on her. Knowing that Natsuo is trying to set her up with Alex angers Rue, and she stares daggers at Natsuo before going to her room. Natsuo chases after her, sits next to her, and brings her his cooking which she enjoys. Natsuo apologizes for what he did, but Rue declines it and asks him to make it up to her in a different way. Realizing what she wants, Natsuo kisses her, pushing closer to some plot progression, but Hina accidentally walks in and her shocked face stops the two siblings from making taboo babies. Hina walks away and Natsuo chases her down, trying to explain, but she refuses to believe anything he says and hides in her room. After Natsuo's failure, Ru goes to her room alone and explains that she was the one who initiated the kiss because she has feelings for Natsuo. Hina tries to talk Ru out of it as Natsuo is her own brother, but Ru uses Ono's reverse card by saying, "If there's a hole, there's a way." The next day, Natsuo tells Alex that Ru's not interested, but instead of feeling rejected, he's optimistic about getting her. Seeing his sad face, Alex asks Natsuo if he's okay, and after Natsuo tells him that his family is having issues, Alex gives him some advice, and that is to talk to them and tell them how he feels. Later at home, Natsuo tries to talk with Hina through her door, but she's there and tells him that she knows about Ru liking him. Hina asks Natsuo if he feels the same way, but he tells Hina that she is the one he loves. After hearing that, Hina tells him that she's moving out, feeling betrayed after seeing him kiss Ru. After hearing about Hina's plan to move out, the parents suggest that they all go to a festival together before Hina leaves. There, Natsuo is unable to get his eyes off Hina, and both he and Ru realize that they're at fault for Hina leaving. Suddenly, they run into Ayano, a maid from the cafe, and her son Yuta. Ayano takes Natsuo to see Masaki with his plots out playing the drums, and it traumatizes Natsuo. Then Hina sees a goldfish stand, and there she manages to catch the fish easily. But the vegan gods hit her with karma and make her drop her phone into the water. She runs into Natsuo and is relieved that he's there with her, and Natsuo tells her to hold his hand to not get separated. He takes her somewhere private and tries to convince her to not move out, knowing it's his fault, but Hina tells him that it's for both of their sake that she moves out. Natsuo tries to get her to tell him her reason for leaving, but Hina refuses, bites his hand, and runs away. While Natsuo keeps following her, trying to talk to her, they run into Masaki. Natsuo tells him to catch her, and he does catch Hina, locking her down so Natsuo can talk to her. After they sit her down, Masaki scolds Hina for acting like a brat who can't navigate through her feelings, and it doesn't work. But Yuta gives Hina candy to calm her down. Then they leave Hina alone with Natsuo, and Hina starts talking about her feelings and how she's jealous of Ru, who acts like a free spirit, while she has to play the responsible older sister, and that moving out was her way to be a bit more free. She reveals that she was jealous seeing Ru kissing him, and she fears that she would follow her feelings if she stayed with Natsuo longer. Instead of feeling sad, Natsuo feels happy that he can listen to Hina's true feelings for the first time, and Hina is pissed hearing that, but Natsuo hugs her from the back and asks Hina to stay like this with him just a little longer. The next day, Hina reveals that she is still moving out, shocking Natsuo and making him sad that after they profess their feelings for each other, they can't start making taboo babies. However, Hina tells him that they can just meet whenever they want, and Natsuo takes it as an invitation for him to go to her new place. Meanwhile, Ru is still depressed after realizing that she will be living without her sister for the first time, and seeing that, her mother suggests she get some fresh air. So Ru goes to the bookstore, and there Ru runs into Kuraya and an old face, Shu, with him. With no love lost, Ru looks at Shu with hostility, but Shu assures Ru that she has no more contact with Hina. He asks Ru for her time so he can apologize properly. So they go to the cafe, and there Masaki can't believe that Shu is dating a dude now, but he assures him that he still likes women. Then Shu apologizes for what he did to Ru's family and reveals that he has already divorced her wife due to their personality differences, but he assures her that he won't reconnect with Hina anymore. Ru asks him why he won't do it, and Shu confesses that it doesn't feel right after Hina is the one who broke up with him. After hearing what Shu has to say, Ru vents about Hina leaving and how she feels it's her fault for making her leave, but Shu calms her down and convinces her that that's not the case. Following this, while Hina is packing her stuff, Ru comes to her and begs Hina to stay, telling her she'll do anything to make her stay except for abandoning her feelings for Natsuo. However, Hina tells Ru that she doesn't have to do anything and asks her to let her be free. Then Natsuo finds a letter from Hina in his room, and inside is a spare key to her place, and Natsuo can't wait to jiggle her jugs progress the thick plot. Following this, the family helps around Hina's new place, and when the parents bring up the topic of marriage, Hina smiles at Natsuo, and he now knows exactly what the key is for. While looking at the key, he thinks he's ready to show his love to Hina and be a man, and on his way to Hina's place, he runs into Hina's old room and Rui is in there, alone and already missing her sister. Natsuo walks in, and while he tries to comfort her, Ru hugs him and says that she's okay since she has him with her. However, Natsuo lets her go of her hug and puts her in the family zone, saying that he'll support her as her brother. Later, the dad comes home to Ru cooking, and when he sees that Ru is cooking pork, he tells Ru that it's Natsuo's favorite, but Rue tells the old man that his son is away at Fumiya's place and won't be back for dinner. However, Natsuo is at Hina's place, ringing her doorbell, but she doesn't answer, so he pulls out the key and goes in. Inside, he sees Hina sleeping, and while he's admiring her face, Hina wakes up and gets flustered. Natsuo uses his brother Rize and tells her that he's prepared to die with her, abandoning everything just to love her. Hina reveals that she feels happy, and after hearing that, Natsuo kisses her and refuses to let go. He tells her that he considers this as his first kiss, forgetting the time she pushed him down and gobbled his tongue. Hearing that, Hina tells him to kiss her again to rewrite their previous kiss, and this time, Natsuo becomes more daring, inching closer to the promised land, but Hina stops him, not wanting to rush things. After she says that, Natsuo feels a little down, but Hina tells him that their relationship is just getting started. The next day, they go back to school and Alex, being excited, climbs on Natsuo's back, showing him what prison feels like, but when he sees Rue with him, he gets flustered and introduces himself. Then, after finding out that both Rue and Natsuo are in the reading club, Alex wants to join. They ask Korea if he can join even though his favorite piece of literature is the ABCs, and Korea approves him, knowing that with enough members their club will get a budget from the school. Then while Natsuo is walking with his buddies, they run into Hina, and there Natsuo realizes something. Following this, Natsuo confronts Hina and asks if she's ready for a relationship with him, but she takes his hand and pulls him away somewhere private. Natsuo worries that he's being too needy, but she assures him that she feels the same way and that she's just being cautious in their relationship. She pulls him down to hide from others, and they kiss each other. At her place, they continue kissing each other while cooking dinner like a married couple. Days later, while the school has a festival, the reading club opens a maid cafe, making us degenerates drool over the girls in maid costumes. After the festival, the reading club is worried about Korea, who has been absent for a few days, so Natsuo suggests they visit him. They go to Korea's Bauji apartment and are greeted by a girl in his apartment who asks them to wait. They wonder if she's Korea's baby mama, but when Korea appears, they stop talking about it. They tell Korea that they're worried about him, but Korea assures them that he's fine and that the girl they just saw was his editor. Korea reveals that he's not just a teacher, but also a novelist, which sends Natsuo into a frenzy after finding out he's actually his favorite novelist. With already having written novels for the reading club, Korea suggests that they submit their creation for a competition, and that the award might help them become a professional novelist, which Natsuo is excited about. The next day, Natsuo and Miu can't stop fangirling about Korea being their favorite author, and Natsuo starts teasing Miu for being relieved to know that Big Daddy Korea is still single. However, Miu gets upset and accidentally pushes him down the stairs, sending Natsuo to an isekai. However, he just broke his leg and Hina is worried sick about him. Natsuo tells Hina that now, he can't come to her place for a while, but Hina tells him to focus on healing first. Later, while eating Rue's cooking, Rue tells Natsuo that she's happy he broke his leg, and she kisses him, saying that she's happy that he'll be home a bit more. At school, the whole school gathers seeing Miu on her knees, begging Natsuo for forgiveness, telling him she will do anything for him, and Natsuo calms her down. Back home, Natsuo is taking a bath when Rue walks in, showcasing all her plots, saying she's here to help him clean himself. Natsuo agrees, but only with the lights off, and then they both are in the same bathtub and Natsuo starts apologizing to Hina, as his anaconda raises horizontally for her sister. Then Rue starts cleaning his back, and when she tries to look for soap, she accidentally touches his big carrot, which explodes Natsuo. At the cafe, Rue tells Fumiya that Natsuo won't be coming to his house for a while, but Fumiya tells her that Natsuo has not been coming to his house. Later, Rue approaches Natsuo like a cute kitty and confronts him about where he has been going whenever he leaves the house. Natsuo lies by saying he's been going to Momo's place, and Rue believes him, asking to bring her with him so she won't eat dinner alone. Following this, Natsuo tells Fumiya his whole situation and to have his back next time, and Fumiya warns him that if someone were to find out about him and Hina, things would get ugly. At the club, Natsuo gets a selfie from Hina, and he really wants to meet her after a long time. Rue walks in and Natsuo tells her that he's going to Fumiya's house, and Rue believes him. However, Natsuo is with Hina, playing tongue twister, and Hina feeds him like she's his wife. After remembering how Rue bathed him, Natsuo asks Hina if she would help him bathe if they lived together, and Hina agrees that she would. Natsuo is happy to hear that and kisses her again more intensely. He asks if he can take a bath here, and although she has her doubts, Hina agrees. Then they get a bit more daring, stepping closer to the promised land that losers can only dream of, But suddenly, the doorbell rings, and when Hina opens the door, it's Rue waiting outside, looking broken and devastated. She approaches Natsuo and without saying a word, she starts crying in front of him and runs away. Both Hina and Natsuo realize they screwed up with their relationship exposed, and Rui is heartbroken. Natsuo goes home and Rui is not there. But then, Fumiya calls him and tells him that Rue came to his house, worrying about Natsuo who has a broken leg, making Natsuo feel guilty. Later he finds Rue alone in the rain and she slaps his face, calling him a liar. After calming down, Rue explains that after she went to Fumiya's house and Natsuo wasn't there, she was worried and started looking for clues. In his room, she found his novel and there she realized that the heroine in his novel is her sister Hina. Rue asks Natsuo if he loves Hina, and he tells Rue the truth that he has loved her for a long time. He tells Rue that Hina has accepted his feelings and that from now on, he wants a future with Hina. After hearing that, while it hurts her, Rue kisses him and asks him to let her kiss him for the last time. They go back home and Rue covers up for Natsuo, telling her mother a fake story of how Natsuo picked her up in the rain. Natsuo tries thanking her for it, but she goes to her room without saying anything. Then, unable to hold back her emotions, Rue cries alone with the bathtub covering the sound of her tears. The next morning, she's back to normal and tells Natsuo that she's gonna start hating him from now on as it's the only way to stop her feelings and for her heart to start healing. In class, it's announced that they're going on a school trip, and while the others are excited, Natsuo is not. He meets Hina and tells her how Rue now knows everything and how she's gonna start hating him for her sake. Following this, Hina walks past Rue, but she just walks past Hina without acknowledging her. In the club room, the members gather and after Korea walks in, he announces that Rue has won the competition. And while the others congratulate her, Natsuo feels sad that he didn't win. After school, Neo meets Natsuo and she tells him that just like him, she's upset that she lost to Rue in the writing contest. She vents on how since she was little, she always loved to read and thought that she had talent for it. But now, as someone talentless, she feels that she has something that a talented person like Rue doesn't, the drive to win. After hearing her speech, Natsuo goes to Korea's place and asks him to be his teacher. And when Korea rejects, Natsuo forces him to accept. Natsuo tells Korea that he desperately wanted to be a novelist and after seeing his lack of talent compared to Rue, he wants Korea to help him be a better writer. Korea reveals that Rue has declined the award without giving a reason why and gives Natsuo a reality check about talent. Korea tells him that his biggest talent is his desire to be a novelist which Rue doesn't have, and that being his student won't take him anywhere as there's nothing he can teach him that Natsuo doesn't know about. Korea asks Natsuo if he wants to write novels or just have the title of a novelist, which opens his eyes. Back home, Korea's words strike a chord in Natsuo and he realizes how hollow he actually is. The next day, Natsuo starts writing again after he gets a book from Korea to help him write a novel, and here, Natsuo starts from ground zero in his own rocky training arc. After a few days, Natsuo hands Korea a short story he made for him to read and claims he will do this once a week as part of his training. Afterward, they start the school trip and Natsuo enjoys spending it with his friends. At dinner, Alex suddenly kisses him, making him taste what dudes taste like. Then they all go to the beach, showing off their abs in plotful swimsuits. Rue confronts Hina about wearing a swimsuit around students, but Hina starts crying after her sister finally talks to her after everything that happened. She tells Rue she's gonna break up with Natsuo so everything goes back to normal. But Rue pinches her cheek and tells her that her idea is not gonna change anything as Natsuo will always want to clap her. And after hearing this, they make up as sisters. On their last day of the trip, Natsuo and his friends walk around and Natsuo sees a stand selling rings. He texts Hina, and they set a time to meet each other at night. Then Natsuo goes to Hina's room and embraces her, saying how much he wants to see her. While Hina wants to break up, Natsuo wants to get serious and they both start panicking. Hina tries convincing Natsuo to break up before they start making babies, but Natsuo rejects her proposal and puts a ring on her finger, showing her how serious he is. After seeing his rees, Hina folds to Natsuo and he tells her that the next ring will be when they get married, and his words deal double damage to Hina as she starts crying and kisses him. They lie on the bed and unlike before, they do some hot yoga at night to progress the plot. After 15 seconds of greatness, they lie there and Natsuo asks Hina when she starts liking him, to which Hina answers since they started talking on the roof. Natsuo accidentally reveals that he saw her playing DJ on her flapjacks, and it makes Hina embarrassed. Then she tells him that if he falls for someone else, he should tell her first, but Natsuo assures her that it's not gonna happen. Days later, Hina is called by the head teacher in the conference room, and there, they confront her with a picture of her and Natsuo kissing. Hina is in shock and the head teacher reveals that they got the picture by accident but knows that it's her and Natsuo in the picture. Hina asks if the picture is public, and after she finds out that it hasn't been made public, Hina bows down and begs to only punish her and not Natsuo. In the auditorium, while Natsuo daydreams about wanting to go for a second round with Hina, she shows up and announces that she will be transferring schools. The students start begging her to stay, but she tells them how thankful she is to be their teacher and wishes them the best for the future. Then Ru and Natsuo, who are both panicking, ask each other if either of them knows anything that is happening with Hina, but they both come up empty. Natsuo tries calling Hina, but she doesn't answer, so he goes to the faculty room to find her, but the vice head teacher who knows what happened tells Natsuo to go home. Meanwhile, Kariya confronts Hina and tells her that he knows after reading Natsuo's novel. Kariya tells her that like his friend, Shu, who once loved Hina, she should have also consulted with Kariya about this and waited till graduation. However, Hina starts crying and tells him that it would be pointless as her feelings for Natsuo would be too strong. Meanwhile, Natsuo runs into Hina's apartment to find that she has already emptied her place, and there she leaves a letter for him. In the letter, Hina reveals that she chose to move schools after their relationship was exposed, and she kept this a secret, not wanting him to sacrifice his future as well to choose her. Hina wishes for Natsuo to not try to find her and move on from her so he can become a novelist. She apologizes for keeping this a secret and tells Natsuo that the time she dated him was the best time of her life and that she loves him and will never forget how he loved her. After the letter, Natsuo screams in pain. A week later, Ru is venting to Misaki about how Hina stopped contacting her and how Natsuo refuses to come out of his room. Hearing this, Fumiya comes to visit him and tries to cheer him up, but there he reads the novel Natsuo wrote and starts getting angry. Fumiya gives Natsuo a reality check and tells Natsuo that if he stays like this, Hina's sacrifice will be pointless. Natsuo starts crying, saying how he feels so powerless in losing Hina, and outside the room, Ru is crying too. Later, Natsuo asks Kariya for permission for him to stop sending him short stories so he can send him a longer story so he can move on. At home, Natsuo is still holed up in his room, while the mother has found out where Hina is staying to make sure she's safe and tells the father to not tell the kids. They both know the relationship between Hina and Natsuo, and they start thinking if they should divorce because of it. Ru comes into Natsuo's room and realizes he hasn't been eating. She vents about it to Misaki, and he has an idea. Days later, Misaki takes Natsuo to a public bath where his tattoo shocks Natsuo. He tells Natsuo that the bath will help him, and then he tells the story of the tattoo and how he once left the Yakuza, which made his father angry. However, Misaki was happier after leaving, being able to love the man of his dreams, but then his father died of cancer and out of shame. He chose to not come to the funeral and kept his tattoo as a sign of respect. Misaki gives Natsuo golden advice, and that is to face and shoulder the pain of his past, while continuing to live for the future. Later, after Ru brings food to his room, Natsuo starts eating it and it pleases her. Then Natsuo continues writing his masterpiece, even in tears, and by the end, he can see the words coming to life, and Ru is more hopeful that he's okay. Months later, Natsuo is out of his room, which surprises Ru. He tells her that his novel is done, and he wants her to read it. He apologizes for making the parents worry, and after seeing Natsuo is okay, they want to celebrate the New Year's as a family. They visit a shrine and all their friends are present. Realizing Natsuo wants to hand his novel to Kariya, they all come to Kariya's house, which takes him by surprise. Later that night, Kariya reads Natsuo's masterpiece, and he can't believe how much Natsuo has changed. A week later, Kariya invites Natsuo to his place, and there he introduces Natsuo to a man named Tsutaya, who is there to take him somewhere. They take him to the most prestigious art competition and reveal that Natsuo has won first place in the amateur category, after Kariya submitted his work there. Then Natsuo gives a speech and while awkward, he thanks everyone who helped him become a novelist. Kariya tells Natsuo that his win is not a fluke and that as long as he follows his heart, he can continue writing. Back home, Hina is there, and without skipping a beat, he hugs her, but it turns out to be Ru in a wig. She explains that Momo lent her the wig as she wanted to grow her hair. Ru confesses that she cried when he hugged her, knowing that it was his feelings for Hina. She asks Natsuo if he laid the pipe on Hina, and while embarrassed, Natsuo tells the truth. Suddenly, Ru pushes him down, kisses him, and says that she will not hold back from now on and drain him dry with Hina being gone. Meanwhile, in her new life, Hina now has short hair and in her house. she keeps a copy of Natsuo's new book and the ring he gave her. If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video.